So, okay, wow, my voice is not it right now. Ooh. Okay, I've been sick for the past week, and this week I have worked so much. I'm that tired. Ugh. I will fill you guys in on a life update soon. I have a lot to fill you guys in on, so this week that's coming up, I'm planning to do a weekly vlog so I can fill you in on my busy new schedule. But anyway, I've been a bit sick, so please just bear with me. I wanted to film this video because I've been getting so many DMs and messages about uni related questions and please help me. I'm starting uni. I feel like a huge chunk of my subscribers are 2 or 3 years younger than me, so they're just starting uni, they're just finishing school. So I'm getting so many requests about that type of topic. So I thought I would make this video to answer 4 really common questions I've been getting. First of all, I'm going to talk about how to prepare for lectures, what to do during lectures, and what I do after lectures. The next question is how to take notes, in terms of typing or writing. So I've made so many different videos on taking notes and vlogs where I've showed all of these in the past. So I'm gonna link some stuff below, but I'm just gonna try and explain it all in this video. The third question is how to study for exams and do assignments, and how to organize my life. Okay, I think I'm gonna make that a 4th. There's gonna be 5. The 4th one is how to organize my life and organize everything. And the 5th one is how to balance uni with other things in life, like work, social life, stuff like that, which I've explained I'm so bad at, but I've been working on, and honestly I have gotten a lot better at it. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. Before I jump into those questions, also please don't be distracted by this hair. I know it's kind of weird, but I thought it was a cute hairstyle. I saw someone at work today with this hairstyle and I was like, that is so cute. So I came home and did it to myself. Anyway, I'm so weird. Okay, before I get into the questions, I thought I'll tell you what I'm doing. So I am in my 3rd year of sports and exercise science at Sydney Uni, and I get lots of different questions about my course, should I do that? So I don't even know if I should do it, but anyway, the reason I picked this course is because I didn't know / don't know what career path I want to go into. So I was very jealous, and still am jealous, of people who graduated school and they were like, I want to be a policeman, or they graduated school and they were like, I want to be a lawyer, and they just knew what they wanted to do. That wasn't me. So, if you don't know what you want to do, definitely pick something you're interested in. And the reason I picked this is because yes, I'm interested in it, but also it's not super specific. It's pretty broad, so it can lead to lots of different pathways of study. So what I was leaning towards was looking at going to a master's of nutrition and dietetics, which isn't a very easy pathway because just how the degrees changed recently, and I would have probably had to do more study if I choose to go down that path, as in maybe another half year of non-award units. But now I'm leaning towards doing a master's in teaching if I do a master's. But I'm just going to finish. My plan is to finish my degree, so I have 1.5 years left. It is a 3-year degree, but I've been going reduced load, so it's still full-time but 1 less subject, just because I'm so busy. So it's going to take me an extra half year, so I finish next year. And then after that, my plan is just to maybe work for a bit, see how my life is going, and I'm picking the electives this year that can allow me to then do teaching as a master's if I choose to do that. So that's currently my plan. But my degree, it does lead to lots of different pathways. So physiotherapy, you can then go into medicine afterwards, but it is all about health science, the body, nutrition, training adaptations, anatomy, physiology, stuff like that, if that's what you're interested in. So it's really just up to you and depends on what you want to do in the future. Anyway, time to get into the questions. Preparing for lectures, so how to do lectures. So this was something that was so different from high school, and it was overwhelming to go from high school where your teacher would teach you and you could ask questions and you'd get worksheets, to compared to high school, 1 lecture is 2 to 3 weeks worth of content in an hour. It was voluminous, a lot of volume, a lot of content. So what I like to do is, there's this thing called Canvas, which if you're starting uni, you will get to know. It's basically a website, and yeah, it's a website, and on the website you have all of the different courses that you're enrolled in. So a full-time student would have. Well, I'm full-time and have 3 subjects, but normal load is 4 subjects. So each of those subjects will have their own little tab kind of, and you click on it and content gets posted all the time there. Like the lecture slides will be put there. After the lecture, the recordings will go there. So I don't know if do I make this a normal uni or a COVID uni type of video? I don't know. So on Canvas, you go into the subject. So for example, one of my subjects was training adaptations. So before the lecture that week, or some subjects had 2 lectures, usually there's just one like 2-hour lecture each week for a subject. The lecturer will upload the lecture notes, and that is usually like a 60-slide PowerPoint presentation. It's pretty heavy content, and it really just depends on your lecturer. Sometimes they're nice and condensed, sometimes they are not, and they ramble. But each to their own. So what I do before a lecture is download the PowerPoint, and I would try to type it up before the lecture. So there would be, you know, diagrams and stuff as well. So I would create a Pages document and type up the notes from the slides, and then take any screenshots of diagrams and put them in there, so that when I was listening to the lecture, I didn't have to be worrying about getting the notes down and trying to listen, because it goes so fast and they say so much, and usually the content is pretty hard depending on what you study. So when I did biochemistry, every second word was like succinate dehydrogenase. Every second word was like ridiculous. So it was too hard to be like, what just happened, and type the notes at the same time. So if you wanted to like absorb the content and get notes down, so afterwards you were like, I have notes to study from, you would, mind would be blown. So I would try and type out the content before going into the lecture. Then in the lecture, I would have all my notes typed. So I'd be watching the slides, listening to what the lecturer was saying, trying to learn and understand what they're saying, and at the same time, when they added more information, adding those notes to what I'd already typed up. So that after the lecture, I would have like complete notes with like all the slides typed out neatly in like a format that I liked, and also the stuff I added to it. And that would be my notes. After the lecture, all I would do was print these notes out and file them away in a binder. And then when it came to exam time, those notes I would write out again. I would make sure I understood it and study from those notes, which I'll get to in a bit. But I also want to add, I didn't just leave those notes there and wait until exams and whip them back out, because you have to revisit something that's hard when it comes to uni compared to like high school. Okay, in high school, when you do the HSE, for example, you've like revisited that content so many times that you know it so well by the time it gets to the HSE. You've been doing it for a year, your teachers go over it so many times, and there's not so much volume that you have to just look at it once, move on to the next thing. But at uni, there's a lot of volume in less time, so you often look at something once and that's it. So it's important that you revisit it yourself, so that when it gets to exams, you're not like, oh yeah, I remember like 2 months ago hearing that word, like what? So anyway, I'll get to that in a bit, but that's basically what I did for lectures. They didn't always upload the lecture slides early enough. Like sometimes lecturers would put it up half an hour before your lecture, and I wouldn't always get to type it up the night before. Like for example, if I got home late from training and I was just like cooked, sometimes I just tried really hard to like multitask and do it at the same time as the lecture. But it's really helpful if you do have time to just type it out before. I've tried other techniques like printing off the notes and writing all over it, but this is just the way I like to do it the best. So you gotta just find out what works for you. Some people like to make notes on the PowerPoint slides and have like a 60 slides of notes, but no, I find that stressful. I didn't do this so much during COVID, because often in COVID they just uploaded a lecture, like a video, instead of going to a live lecture. When they did that, uploading a pre-recorded lecture, I would just type the notes as I went, and it took me so long because I would pause to write what they were saying and get the notes down. So like a 2-hour lecture would take me 5 hours sometimes. So when you're doing a live lecture, you can't pause and you can't go back. You're forced to just keep up and keep going. So it forced me to just do it in the 2 hours or however long it was. But when it was COVID and online, which I think we're probably doing again this year, I was just way less efficient, and I allowed myself to pause it and go back, and I just don't have that time this year because I'm so busy and have a job now. So I'm going to have to learn to be efficient. So because of COVID, I don't know what each person's scenario will be who's watching this. You might just have a pre-recorded lecture, and in that case you don't have to type everything up before, because you can pause it and go back. Because in person, sometimes if you're like, whoa, what happened, I missed that, I would add a note to my notes that I had pre-typed saying, go back to this bit. And then later when they uploaded the recorded lecture, I would like go back to that bit to hear the sentence that I missed. So If you've watched my videos where I've talked about keeping summaries for the HSC, this is similar to that. So those notes are almost like my summaries, but just like less succinct. And like the summaries, I would print them off, file them in my binder, and I would organize it by weeks. So after that lecture, I would write like week 2, which subject it was, the topic it was, and then file it in my binder. So when I get to my exam, I can make sure I've studied all the content for each lecture throughout the semester. How do I take notes? Basically, I just explained that. Taking notes, I type. I have tried writing it out, but I can't write as fast as they can speak, and typing allows me to have like all the pre-typed notes and add to it. So I type notes throughout the semester, but when it comes to studying, which I will get to in a second, I write. You have to handwrite to study. I mean, you don't have to, but I have to, because you get so much more out of it. You make that mind-muscle connection, that you absorb it more because you're forced to go more slowly. And honestly, just try it. Try it before your exam, doing mind maps, writing things, writing notes, compared to typing, and you'll be like, damn, I get so much more out of this. You gotta write. Okay, the next question, how do I study for exams? So I've made so many study videos and it's quite similar, but I do like to try new things and adapt and, you know, see if I like new different techniques. So at the end of last year, my most recent exams last semester, what I've been doing is creating mind maps. So what I did for these mind maps, I basically would have my printed summaries, and then I would get a blank piece of paper, and at the top or in the middle do a heading, or right in the middle of the page even, like what week it was, what the content or the topic was. For example, if I wrote fatigue for a training adaptations lecture, and then I would just write all over the page as succinct as I could. I would just write notes, and I would try to not write everything out. I would try to just take the main points out and just make sure I went through all of the content and understood it well, and remembered the examples they used, remembered studies that were important, and just noted down things that were really important. I found that really useful. And another thing I did was I started my mind maps and summaries pretty early. I wouldn't start like 3 weeks before exams, so I would start maybe 6 weeks before exams, because it's so important to revisit notes, as I was just explaining earlier. So obviously after I'd studied that content, 6 weeks later when I had my exam, that still wasn't fresh in my mind. So the purpose of that was I'd finished studying my content a few weeks before the exam, and then I would revise it again, but make another mind map and make it even more succinct. So I would get my mind map that I'd already made for example, week 13, might end up being 2 or 3 pages, because there can be a lot of content sometimes. And then I would make another mind map, but only allow myself 1 page, and just make it even more succinct. So if I wrote like a sentence, I would just pick out keywords and just go over the stuff I wasn't as confident with. So again, you're just revisiting it so many times that by the time you get to your exam, you're like a guru, you know? So that's how I have been doing my notes lately, and I've really liked that, doing mind maps. I'm going to probably do that again this semester. So I know in the past I talked about Bibles, and that was a similar concept, like basically using your summaries or notes and writing it all out, but I just wrote it out in like tables or like paragraphs, or just note like dot points, and I really liked changing it up, and I really liked using loose leaf paper instead of a book. Oh, that was a big one. So what I did, this is like my most recent one, it's a bit messy because I just after exams disregard it. So okay, for example, I basically would do a mind map. This is one of my succinct mind maps, so the second mind map around, and I would do every week and hole punch it and file it in, so I could just go through week by week. And this is so hard to hold, I need to stand. So I could just do my mind map, hole punch it and file it in week by week. These are my like succinct, like cut down diagrams, so not the original like mind maps. But as you can see, it's such a nice way to just like file all your work in this way. And yeah, the girls. So that's how I liked studying most recently. So getting out your binder where you'd filed away each of the lecture notes from each week, getting another binder with a whole heap of blank pieces of paper which you can hole punch, and then on each blank piece of paper you write your heading, you have your printed notes from your lecture next to you, and then highlight what's important. Write out important bits, write out bits that are necessary to know, do dot points, draw diagrams, make it colourful, use colour highlighters, make it meaningful to you, and draw little pictures if you need to make it meaningful. And that's what I did. So that's how I studied. And another thing that I did, which helped again with revisiting, was, and last semester was the first time I tried doing this, but basically after the lecture, as I said, I printed off my lecture notes and filed it in my binder. And I didn't want to just leave that until it was time to study. So what I would do after each lecture, in the same week, at some point in the week when I got a chance, I would read through my notes and type myself up questions. So I would create a Word document and I would literally write, do I have any around? Let me see if I have an example in here. I'd read through my lecture notes and create another document with questions which I created for myself. And I would create my own questions just from the content. So for example, define central fatigue, and then under that I would write A and write the answer next to it. This was a way of studying because I was rereading all my content and typing out these questions for me. So that in itself was revisiting it. And then once I typed out all of these questions, I would try and revisit these often throughout the semester, and I also use these to study. But so for example, like I would get my parents to ask me some of the questions and I would have to answer them without having any notes. For example, question, how does the CNS maintain homeostasis? And name 2 strategies used. So I would give myself prompts so I could kind of be like, okay, 2 strategies, like instead of just having no clue. Let me find a better example for that. Because I would sometimes give myself hints as well. One of the questions I wrote for myself was list 5 benefits of fatigue, and then I wrote in brackets hint PPCCE. So it was an acronym, so I knew that they each started with PPCCE. So that this makes sense, I'm just going to say what it is. 1 P was protective, 1 was prevents metabolic crisis. A C was conserves muscle fibers, another C was cardiovascular safety, and then the E was ensures we don't have complete substrate depletion. So it would just be from my own notes in my own like way to understand. So that is how I did these questions, and I would also use them again to study. So for example, after I'd written out my mind maps, you know, the day before exams when you're like, I've done all my studying, I just want the exam to be over, what do I do? Like I'm prepared for the exam, I just want to get it over with. Usually the day before exams I would type up questions. So I'd have my list of questions in front of me. I would get another piece of paper to cover up the answer, and then I would read the question, define fatigue, and then I would type up my answer or write it out and then drag the piece of paper down to look at the answer. Because I know I typed out questions for all of the content, because I'd answered them all and I could answer them with or without checking the answer, I knew I'd studied everything and I was completely prepared for my exam. Like I knew I can answer anything that was given to me, and that's similar to what I explained I did in the HSC, where I'd answered a question for every dot point on the syllabus. Because we often don't get a syllabus or dot points, they sometimes give objectives. Often they don't, let's be real. But if you've studied all the content that they've presented in lectures, then you've studied everything that they can test you on. So that's why I did it like that. Okay, the next part of that question was assignments. So how do you do assignments? And that I kind of can't answer because it really depends on your course and your subject and like what your assignment is. And uni is so random. Like depending on what you study, your assignments are going to be, and what uni you go to, the assignments you get will be really random. So like for example, I had an essay last semester, and to study for that was just writing the essay, doing research, and then we have had group assessments, and that's just like honestly bugging your group is all you can do, bugging your lecturers to get help, because yeah, it really just depends. Like one of our assessments was like a group training study, and we had to like all do 4 weeks of a certain type of training and just like keep a log of our training, and then at the end create a report together. So we just had to like Zoom and like make our report and like include information from lectures. So I can't really explain how to do assignments. It depends what the assignment is. But if you need help, honestly, ask your lecturers, ask your tutors. I emailed them so much, but they were so good at replying, most of them. There was one that was not, but everyone else was amazing at replying, and honestly they start to like you because they get to know you. And it's not like school. If you don't go up to your teacher or your lecturer and like ask them questions and get to know them, they will have no idea who you are. And I think they do appreciate you getting to know them, because I've had like a good connection with some of them and like gotten some opportunities out of that, because they've been like, oh, we recognize you as like a student who like is like a good student, they're dedicated, and they will not look out for you more, but look out to help you when you need help and you ask for help. If you do ask for help often and you're not just there when it like you know, you're putting in the work, you speak up in lectures. Like when they ask questions and everybody is silent, like they're just a person too. Like they're out there at the front trying their best. And like on a Zoom call, like sometimes in a Zoom class or a Zoom lecture, they would ask a question or like try to get a response, and like I swear sometimes I was the only person to speak. People would just be silent and have their cameras off, and I was like I want to learn and I want to actually like not have this lecture go for 5 hours. So like if we don't speak, it's just going to be like huge blocks of silence while they wait for someone to speak. So don't be afraid to ask for help and get to know your lecturers. They actually will appreciate that. So yeah, ask for help, email your lecturers if you're confused. Okay, and the last question was, how do I balance life? So okay, I've talked about this in past videos that honestly I've gone so much better, go me, woo, but for like a while I was really bad with balance. All I would do was smash myself into the ground with studying and training, and I would have no time for anything else. Like I would panic and stress if I wasn't studying all day, even though everyone else that I was doing uni with was like at the beach and they still, you know, pass their exams and stuff. I would be like, no, I can't. I will be too stressed to enjoy myself out. All I did was study. So that is no way to live your life. You know, you can be efficient. You can still study and enjoy yourself and do other activities in your life, because at the end of the day, okay, I'm not saying to do badly and fly under the radar, because I haven't done that, and you don't have to do that. But at the end of the day, if telling yourself that, which I tried actually, I said like, you know what, even if you just pass, just aim for a pass. I'm that person that was always, always like, oh, I did so badly, I hope I pass, and then I get a HD and I'm like, oh. If you put in the work, you're going to do well. Like even if you don't feel like you are, you will. Like if you put in the work, it will pay off. That is not me trying to say study yourself into the ground. If it's a HSC, I condone that. I condone that because it's 1 year of your life. But uni, it's not. Like, you know what, you've done the HSC, now you're like, you can't keep doing that forever unless like your life is uni and you genuinely like enjoy like studying yourself into the ground, because you like the most important thing in your life to you is like getting good marks. Or maybe you want to be a neurosurgeon and like that is your ultimate goal in life, so you might have to kind of do that a little bit. Most of us are trying to just do well, study, be good adults, learn to be adults. Like I still don't consider myself a real adult. I feel like you're a real adult at like, I don't know, 24 or something like that. So I'm way off. Anyway, I'm trying to learn to be an adult, but also like enjoy my youth and enjoy my life and be balanced So I've told myself things like, you know what, just pass. If you just pass, that's fine. You're not like, the world's not going to end and collapse even if you fail a subject. Like what's the worst that could happen? Like you're not going to fail. But if you tell yourself like, why does this feel like the weight of the world is on you? If you fail, you just do it again. Like it's simple as that. Like it sucks. I mean, I've not really known someone to fail. Actually, I did know one person to fail, and do you know what they did? They just retook the subject. So it's not the end of the world. This is something I tell myself when I get so worked up over exams. I'm like, you know what? Even if you just pass, like it doesn't matter. It's not like you're going to get an ATAR at the end. Although this year, like it's so annoying because like the last 2 years I've gotten pretty much all HDs, and now I'm in my like 3rd year, and I don't want to like not do well in my 3rd year when I'm like finishing, but but I'm working so much more this year, so I don't know how I'll do it. But you know what? We'll make it work. Sometimes you have no choice, so you have to make it work. Anyway, so there's different aspects to balance that I want to get into, but I just talk too much, so I'm sorry that I talk too much. Do people watch me on double speed because I just like make videos that are too long and talk too much? Please let me know. Anyway, basically what I'm trying to get to and what I'm trying to learn to do myself is understand that you don't get this time back. That is your life. You have to learn how to be balanced and how to include study and include work and include socializing and me time and downtime and training time, and be able to be a balanced human where you're not digging yourself into the ground or being burnt out, which is something I'm learning, so we can learn together. Okay, so the first bit of how do I balance life included work. How do I balance a job? So, okay, let me explain. So the last 2 years while at uni, I've just done like casual jobs. And that's stuff like I've explained before, being an extra. So I have been the waitress, one of the waitresses on Home and Away, if you've seen that TV show, lol. And that was a good job for me because it was random. It wasn't like often in the week. It was like maybe once a week or once every 2nd week. and they would call me and be like, can you do this day? And I would be like, no, because I have training, or no, because I have uni. And then I could work out a different day that I could do, and I was able to be flexible with that. So that was flexible, so it was good to fit around my life. But it wasn't like a lot of money. Like, that's the thing, I haven't been able to save a lot or like make a lot of money because I've done so much other things. Quite a few of my friends at uni have part-time jobs and they work a lot of hours a week, but outside of uni and their job, they don't do a lot of the other things that I do. For example, like my training schedule, and also creating content for social media, because I've realized one of the main, and studying the ridiculous amount that I have studied. One of the main reasons I was not working that much until this year is because I realized I spend so much time editing and making videos, and it honestly takes up like 30 hours of my week. The time I spend like making a video, editing a video, all of that type of thing. Like, it, not just one video, but like if I add up like 2 videos, and like if I do a podcast now, it's a lot of time, which I love doing, but it's just very hard to like balance with everything. That was one of the jobs I did, being an extra. And then I was very lucky because very rarely, sometimes you get feature roles as an extra, or you get selected to audition for an ad, and if you get a feature role, they're a lot of money. I would never get like main features. Like, for example, if you see someone who's the face of an ad, like, you know, the UE guy, he would get like 20 to 30 grand per UE ad. Like, they get a lot of money. This one Fanta commercial I did, the girl who was the main girl in that commercial, so it was 2 long days we filmed for, she got 10 grand for that. And that's a lot. I've never had a job that big, but I would get semi-featured extras. I forget what it's called. I think it was just featured extras. Like, it wasn't like the feature of the thing, but it was a featured extra. So for example, if I was in a rando commercial and when it came on TV I could see my face, this literally happened. This is like an example of what happened. In the Fanta commercial I did, so it was a rando commercial. It was basically like meant to be like a teenage house party, like a Halloween dress up party, and I was like dressed up as like a devil or something. And when the ad came out, which I wasn't looking for it, literally I was watching my own YouTube video because I was like editing something, and the ad before it was the Fanta commercial I was in. I saw myself, like I literally was like, hey, that's me. And then I called my agent and I was like, hey, so I saw myself in the commercial, does that mean I can get an upgrade? And so she called like the producers and stuff, and I got an upgrade and got paid $2,000 for that. And that luckily happened to me like multiple times over the last 2 years. But I know a lot of other people my age who I do extras work with. I call them like the home and away kids. A lot of them, like most of them are just uni students as well, for home and away at least, because they want young people for the diner scenes. But other ads, like, you know, they want a range of anyone. Like, anyone can be an extra. Like, they want old people, they want short people, they want every different type of looking person, because usually an extra is just someone to like, it's meant to make the scene look like it's real life. But anyway, so I've had a few rando, like lucky, like features, which was just lucky, very lucky. And then the other source of income I had was coaching. So that was just like 2 to 3 sessions a week where I would coach with my coach. And that would just be like 2 to 3 hours a week. So I was just making a little bit of money, which would help me with, you know, petrol money, and I would save some of it, and, you know, going towards other important things in life. So that's how I made money. That's how I've been able to save up a little bit at uni. If I wasn't doing YouTube or like trying to create content constantly for social media and training, which is a big one, which obviously I love, but it does take up a lot of time and commitment because it takes up a couple of hours out of each day, then I would definitely be working like at least a part-time job, which was most days of the week, like a lot of people that I go to uni with do, because they have that extra time. And that is something that I'm trying to do this year, and I don't know how it's going to go because of how busy I am. But I've explained I started working for Fitness First as a personal trainer this year, so this week was my first like week doing like 25 hours this week, and I'm burnt out without being at uni. I'm on uni break right now, so I'm kind of anxious about how I'm going to balance it all, but I'm just going to try my best to get into a good routine and get more balanced. And one of the reasons I am pretty burnt out is I spent probably 25 hours or 30 hours editing this week, editing like 3 videos and a podcast and filming those as well. So that was like 30 hours plus 25 hours, which is like 55 hours of like doing work related stuff. And then I also trained this week. I had to go to 2 different specialist appointments for my dietitian and my podiatrist, which were like both an hour drive there and then an hour drive back. And on top of that, I haven't gotten used to the 4:30 a.m. wake ups, which I'm doing a few times a week. So I actually, as someone who can't sleep in the day, I napped twice this week in the day. However, it was only for like 30 minutes to 90 minutes only, because then I had to get up to go to training, which was hard. Oh my gosh. So this is why I'm doing a weekly vlog, to update you guys on the freaking busy life. But I really want to get, you know, used to it, get into a good routine where I can do all of these things. So one of the things I'm doing is releasing the pressure on myself to give out heaps of content, and I'm just going to aim to do 1 video a week, so every Wednesday. And the other thing I'm doing is I need to gain weight, I need to eat, I need to be healthy, which I've obviously talked about heaps in my videos, but I get lethargic and flat so easily because I'm not at a good weight for me. So I know that it's encouraging me to eat more because I want to be healthy and be like energetic and able to do all of these things without like burning out. So sleep, be important. And I guess that means I won't have downtime. But we'll get there to how I used to have downtime. Yeah, so this year, working more, I'm going to just have to learn to be more efficient with my studying and not feel the need to do a 10-hour study day. That's like near exams, by the way. And then I also have to learn to not be super stressed with life and just like being in the moment. Social media for me is like another main priority, as I was just explaining. Yeah, so that's one of the reasons I haven't really had like a lot of work, like working. I've only been doing a couple of hours working a week for the first 2 years at uni, but you know, I'll try and balance that all this year. Go me, good luck to me. Training, so this is another one. This for me is a big priority. So this was something I worked uni around, so I know my training days. I have set training times, you know, the nights of the week that we have our squad training, the days and the times I do my gym sessions. So because I have those times set out for training, I know I have to, you know, finish my studying and my lectures in time for those. You know, I tried to use that time as time where even if I was stressed about how much uni work I had, I would turn up to training and switch off. I would switch that mind off and just focus on my training, and it would be a good break from it, because you have to have a break for, you know, for it to be productive. If you're spending so much time on something, you're going to just start not being able to focus, and you need to exercise, and it's so good for your mental state as well as your physical health as well. So for me, I have my set times to train, and honestly, even if you aren't an athlete and you don't have that type of structured training, you can create something structured for yourself, or you can ask someone to help you with that. So honestly, hit me up. I am looking for clients as a PT, so I'm happy to help any type of training. I do coach for athletics as well, so runners, anyone that just wants to do basic training, or even if you just like going to gym classes, have your regular days that you go, so you just get into a good routine. And you know that if you have your training structured first, you work out uni around that, or vice versa. So you have to just create a good routine for that. And then that way you don't procrastinate, because I don't really procrastinate because I don't have time to procrastinate. Like, I'm not like, oh, I should do that, because I'm like, well, I need to do this now. This is my slot to do this. So another thing with training, if you're not like an athlete, if you just want to be healthy and get into fitness, just find some type of movement that you love. Like if you love, you know, your body pump class at the gym, go and do that a couple of mornings a week. If you love going for walks, find good podcasts and go for walks. Like, you just have to move in a way that feels good to you and you enjoy. Training time should be time for you that is like a break from what you wanted from like your life, and like a break that you look forward to and something you enjoy. So highly recommend that. Okay, social life. The last bit of balance that I want to talk about is social life. This is something I've gotten so much better at in the last like 6 months, because I just, you know, I was like, I can't, life doesn't stop. You have to be balanced, and you have to put your mental health and your social life and your friendships first and your family first sometimes. So make it a priority. You know, a lot of people say like, oh, I don't have time for this. Like, I'd love to train hard, but I don't have time. I'm so busy. Like, if you have time, like there is always time for the things that are important to you. If it's important to you, you will make time for it and you will make it a priority. So your friends, I realized, like, and my own mental health, it needs to be a priority. So even if that meant going out to dinner after training one night, or after I'd coach one night, or like meeting a friend for a coffee in the day, like, or for brunch. Like, you have to make time to meet up with your friends. So keep a diary, keep those time slots. Like, you don't have to spend entire days like going to the beach or something if you feel like that's too stressful or too busy for you during semester. But I started to realize, you know what, it would be more productive for my life to spend today at the beach with my friend than to spend another day smashing out studying when I know I've studied 10 times more than anyone else that I'm in the same degree with me. At the end of the day, we got pretty similar marks because I have a really intelligent group of friends, but I know I spent so much more time studying, whereas I could have just gone to the beach more and enjoy my life. Like, sometimes that I think is more productive for your own mental health and happiness, because at the end of the day, what is the most important thing in life? It's being happy. So if you're fostering good happiness and making time and understanding that, you know what, something that stressed me out is like, this isn't productive enough, having a day off to go out for brunch with my friends, and I realized it is productive because it's making me happy, and that is productive, you know? So again, it's all about making time. And that brings me to the last question, which was organizing. So organizing is basically what I was just going through then. You have to plan ahead. Like, I have a diary. Keep your diary, write the days you have work, the hours you have work, when are you going to fit in training around those times, when will you fit in studying, and you can't procrastinate. So if you do create a kind of schedule and a routine, you will stop procrastinating, because you'll realize if you're trying to fit in a lot of stuff, you'll realize this is the time I have to do this. So there isn't time to question, I should start. You just have to start. And honestly, it's not hard to start when you're like, okay, I'm going to sit down for my hour of doing this now. What I do, I've explained in so many videos, I'll probably link some below, is keeping a to-do list each day. So I'll have like a rough weekly to-do list where I'll write out the days and the times that I have work, training, lectures, and any like social things. So like if I'm seeing a friend for breakfast that day, whatever it might be. And then each night I'll write out for the next day like my plan for the day. And it doesn't have to be like super strict if that's like, if you're like, no, I just want to like be less rigid and less like structured, because that's just like too intense. It can just be like a rough idea of like, get this done and then this, just so you have a structure to follow and you know where to start. And after a while, it's easy to get into a routine. So this might also be like, oh my god, that's so much. But I didn't just go from 0 to 100 real quick. I wasn't one day like, you know what, I'm going to do this. It slowly built up over time. Like, I would make sure I fit in all my training and lectures, and then slowly I would try to add seeing a friend in there, and then I would try to add a shift of work in there like throughout the week. So it wasn't like I was suddenly like, I got there eventually. So start small. If you need to start, you know, making sure you can study a bit and train. Eventually, as you get used to the schedule that you organize for yourself, you know, keeping a diary, making sure you're fitting everything in each week, making sure you're staying on top of all your lectures for uni and keeping that binder, being up to date each week, you know, not leaving your lectures. So another tip is, I did my lecture in the hour that the lecture occurred. Or like if the lecturer said, okay, we upload this lecture at this time, I was ready at that time to do it, because that was the set lecture time and I wanted to stick to that during COVID. And even like when we weren't in COVID, I would turn up to each lecture, and often some people wouldn't, because, you know, they didn't want to drive to campus that day, or they had work that day, which is something that I don't do. I only schedule work around uni, around training, because if you start clashing with all of those things, you start to like get burnt down, because then you have to fit it in. You have to fit it in another time, or squeeze it in somewhere where it just gets too stressful, because then when are you meant to make sure you do your questions and you're studying from that content that you've done? So a tip that I have is arrange your training and your work outside of your uni lecture times, because those times are there for your lecture. You just have to organize your life in a way that's not going to stress you out, or not going to put you in a place where you're like overwhelmed. Am I the best example of this? No, but you know, you live and you learn, and that's why I'm telling you guys. Anyway, I feel like I've rambled a lot. I hope this was helpful for anyone starting uni, or even if you've been a first year and you're like, damn, I'm gonna start some of those ideas because I need help with organizing my life. But yeah, I know that there's probably so many more uni questions, so please just like DM me. Maybe I'll do a uni Q&A video. If you guys want like a Q&A video to like ask more specific questions, like let me know. Comment below if there's like enough people that want one. I can make like a video and I'll do like a poll on my Instagram so you can ask me specific questions. Good luck to anyone starting uni. make sure you stay balanced and just enjoy your life as well, because you got to remember it is not unproductive to have a day with your friends, because that is also important for your mental health and your happiness. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did like this video, please give it a like, consider subscribing to my channel, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!